And our word for today on this Wednesday, the first week in Ordinary Time, this Wednesday, January the 15th, our word for today is tested. Tested our word for today, and here to talk about it, Deacon Dan Brahier. Good morning, Deacon Dan. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on our word for today and finally to get this program on a right track. It's just been a disaster all day long.
Well, I'll do my best. I'll tell you, it is so cold outside this morning. It calls for one of those jokes of how cold is it?
Yeah, I was going to say, wait, we'll do that.
So how's that where you do the first half of the joke, but there's no punchline?
Yeah, right, yeah, but everybody laughs anyway because we're so accustomed to it being a joke. So there we go.
Exactly. So our word for the day is tested. And having been a teacher for 43 years, I can tell you that nothing puts fear into the heart of a student more than having to take a test.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And really, I always tell my students, my teaching method students, that it shouldn't surprise us, because the reason why students ask their teachers, is this going to be on the test, is they want to know if it's important. You know, and the fact is, if something is valued, if something is important, we can be assured it's going to be tested. So if we go back into the Old Testament, there are so many examples of people being tested in a variety of ways. One of them, of course, most famously would be Abraham. He's tested on how much faith he's really got. God puts him to the test by asking him to sacrifice his only son, Isaac. And on the other hand, we see in the Old Testament an unfortunate situation in Exodus when the Israelites tested God himself. You know, they complained because they had no water at Meribah, and they wanted God to prove that he was actually with them by giving them water. And so that's why Jesus later on, when he confronts the devil in the desert, he says, "It is written that you shall not put the Lord your God to the test." You know, we're the ones that need to be tested, not God. So if you look at a definition of this, which I find to be kind of interesting, the Cambridge Dictionary says that to be tested means to put someone through a process to see if something is actually present in it. Think about that one a minute. Put somebody through a process to see if something's present in it. So when we are tested, what it really is to find out, is faith really present in us? Do we have the faith to go through this period of testing and come out stronger on the other side? So in our first reading today from Hebrews, the author says of Jesus, because he himself was tested through what he suffered, he is able to help those who are being tested. So the author here is making the point that Jesus came not only as fully divine, but also as fully human, so that he could relate to what it means to be put to the test. And in his suffering, Jesus could have just, Jesus could have just snapped his fingers in the middle of the passion, right? He could have put an end to it.
Right.
But he chose to undergo that pain and agony. He chose to be put to the test to show us the faith he had and to show us the way that we need to have faith also. There are so many examples of ways that we get tested in our lives. We're tested by having maybe a child who has steered away from the faith, by losing a job and having to find another way to earn a living, when we receive a diagnosis of some kind of illness, of cancer or something else, and the list goes on. And when those things happen, what we can do is rest in today's reading and the fact that Jesus was tested in every way, mentally and physically throughout his life, but he never gave up on God. And that's why the psalm response today also reminds us that God will always keep his covenant with us. You know, Psalm 105 says, "Rejoice, O hearts that seek the Lord. Look to the Lord in his strength and seek to serve him constantly." In other words, in our weakness, when we are being tested, the psalm calls us to seek God in his strength and not to give up. So I think that carries forth then in the gospel reading today, according to Mark, Jesus is curing the sick of their diseases. He's driving out demons, and he's trusting in God that these things are going to work. And he'll do the same for us. He'll cast out our demons and heal us as well if we refuse to break, despite any suffering we have and despite being tested. So there is a value to being tested because it's proving to God the faith that we truly have.
Amen to that. Not easy, but grace sufficient to overcome it all. Thanks be to God. Thank you, Deacon Dan Brahier, a wonderful way to clean up what was, before that, a very mediocre show, to be honest with you. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
have a great week.
You too. Have a great day.